They called her Crash Martinez at flight school. Instructors bet money on when she'd wash out. Her own father said women didn't belong in fighter jets. But the girl they said would never make it became Ghost 9, the most classified pilot in military history. This is how a failure became a legend. This is Tracelight Stories, where real life meets karma. Pensacola Naval Air Station, 2018. The sun hadn't risen yet, but Cadet Sarah Martinez was already running laps around the flight line. At 5 feet 6 inches and 125 pounds, she looked like a strong wind could knock her over. The other cadets called her tiny, and not in a friendly way. Flight Instructor Commander Rick Bulldog Patterson watched from his office window, shaking his head. In 30 years of training pilots, he'd seen hundreds of wannabes wash out. Sarah Martinez had all the warning signs: too small, too quiet, too determined to prove something. She won't last 2 weeks, Patterson told his colleague. Mark my words. What Patterson didn't know was that Sarah had been preparing for this moment her entire life. While other kids played video games, she studied aerodynamics. While they went to parties, she practiced flight simulators until her eyes burned. Her father, retired Army mechanic, had laughed when she announced her plans. Mija, flying jets isn't for girls. Find something more suitable. But Sarah had made a promise to herself at age 12, watching blue angels tear across the sky. She would fly, no matter what it took. Week 1 of flight training was designed to break cadets. Physical training at 0500, classroom instruction until 1800, then study until midnight. The dropout rate was 40% in the first month alone. Sarah's first flight evaluation was a disaster. Her hands shook on the controls. Her radio calls were barely audible, and she nearly clipped the runway on landing. The other cadets snickered as she climbed out of the T-6 Texan trainer, her flight suit soaked with sweat. Martinez. Commander Patterson's voice boomed across the tarmac. My office. Now. Sarah sat across from Patterson's desk, her hands folded in her lap. The walls were covered with photos of successful pilots, all men, all confident, all everything she wasn't. Cadet, I'm going to save us both some time, Patterson said, not looking up from her evaluation sheet. You're not cut out for this. I've seen 1,000 pilots come through here, and you don't have what it takes. Sir, with respect, I disagree. Patterson finally looked up, surprised by the steel in her quiet voice. Excuse me. I said I disagree, sir. I know I can do this. Patterson leaned back in his chair. Cadet, your flight scores are in the bottom 10%. Your physical training times are barely passing. You're the smallest person in your class, and frankly, you look like you're about to cry half the time. Sarah stood up slowly. Sir, permission to speak freely? Granted, you're right about everything except one thing. I'm not going to quit. You can fail me. You can make my life hell, but I'm not walking away. Because somewhere out there, American soldiers are going to need air support. And when that day comes, I'm going to be ready. Patterson stared at her for a long moment. We'll see, Martinez. We'll see. What happened next surprised everyone, including Sarah herself. Instead of breaking under pressure, she got stronger. Every insult became fuel. Every failure became a lesson. She started waking up at 0400 to run extra miles. She spent her weekends in the simulator when other cadets went to the beach. She studied flight manuals until she could recite emergency procedures in her sleep. But it was her flying that really changed. The shaky, nervous cadet disappeared. In her place was someone who moved through the sky like she was born there. Lieutenant Amy Phoenix Chun, one of the few female instructors, noticed first. There's something different about Martinez, she told Patterson after watching Sarah's third-week evaluation. She's not just flying the plane anymore. She's thinking with it. Patterson was skeptical until he saw it himself. Sarah's T-6 moved through the training course like liquid mercury, smooth, precise, almost supernatural. Her radio calls were crisp and confident. Her landings were textbook perfect. What the hell happened to you, Martinez? Patterson asked after her best flight yet. I stopped trying to fly like everyone else, sir. I started flying like me. By month 3, Sarah was leading her class. The same cadets who had mocked her were now asking for her help. The instructors who had written her off were taking notes on her technique. But the real test was coming. Advanced combat training, where careers were made or destroyed. The night before her first combat simulation, Sarah called her father. "Papa, I made it through basic flight training." There was a long pause. "Mijai, I'm proud of you, but be careful up there." "I will, Papa. I promise." Combat Training Excellence, 7:30 to 10:30. Advanced Combat Training at Nellis Air Force Base was where legends were born and dreams died. Sarah arrived with her class of 12, now down from the original 32 cadets. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, nicknamed the Warthog, was a beast. Built around a 30mm cannon that could shred tanks. It was designed for one purpose: close air support. Getting close to the enemy, staying low, and bringing hell. Sarah's first time in the cockpit felt like coming home. The massive aircraft responded to her touch like it was reading her mind. Her instructor, Colonel James Reaper Mitchell, watched in amazement as she executed maneuvers that took most pilots months to master. "Martinez, where did you learn to fly like that?" Mitchell asked after her first training mission. "I didn't learn it, sir. I just know it." The combat simulations were brutal. Simulated surface-to-air missiles, enemy fighters, mechanical failures, everything designed to test a pilot's limits. While other cadets struggled with the pressure, Sarah thrived. Her call sign came during a particularly intense simulation. 12 enemy targets, multiple SAM sites, and a downed pilot to extract. Sarah's A-10 moved through the battlefield like a ghost, appearing from nowhere, striking with precision, then vanishing before the enemy could respond. "Jesus Christ, Martinez," her wingman radioed. "You're like a damn ghost out there." Colonel Mitchell was listening on the radio. After the mission, he pulled Sarah aside. "From now on, your call sign is Ghost. You've earned it." But Sarah wasn't satisfied with just being good. She was obsessed with being perfect. Every night, she studied enemy tactics. Every morning, she visualized missions. She pushed herself harder than anyone had ever seen. The assignment, graduation day, came faster than expected. Sarah finished first in her class, the first woman to ever do so at Nellis. Commander Patterson, the same man who had bet against her, personally pinned her wings. "Martinez," he said quietly during the ceremony, "I've never been happier to be wrong about someone." But Sarah's celebration was short-lived. 3 days after graduation, she received classified orders. Report to Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan. Immediate deployment. Her father called the night before she left. "Mija, I saw the news about your graduation. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. I'm sorry I ever doubted you." "It's okay, Papa. I understand now why you were scared." "Where are they sending you?" Sarah looked at her deployment orders, marked top secret. "Somewhere I can make a difference." Afghanistan was hell on earth. The Taliban controlled vast territories, and American forces were spread thin. Sarah's squadron was tasked with the most dangerous missions, close air support in contested areas, where one mistake meant dead soldiers. Her first combat mission was a routine patrol support, or so they thought. "Ghost, this is Overlord." The radio crackled as Sarah's A-10 cruised over the Hindu Kush Mountains. "We have a situation developing. SEAL Team 6 is pinned down in the Karingal Valley. Heavy casualties. You're the closest air support." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Karingal Valley was known as the Valley of Death, a Taliban stronghold where aircraft went to die. Overlord, Ghost copies. En route to Karingal. As she banked toward the valley, Sarah had no idea she was about to face the mission that would change everything. The mission that would make her a legend. The mission that would earn her the number 9. The radio chatter was chaos. Automatic weapons fire, explosions, desperate voices calling for help. As Sarah approached the valley, she could see the situation below. 12 Navy SEALs trapped on a ridgeline, surrounded by at least 50 Taliban fighters. Ghost, this is SEAL Team Leader Morrison. A familiar voice crackled through her headset, the same Morrison who would meet her in that Virginia Beach bar years later. We are taking heavy fire from all directions. We have wounded. We need immediate close air support. Sarah looked at her fuel gauge. She had maybe 20 minutes of combat time before she'd have to return to base. The Taliban positions were dug in, well defended, and dangerously close to the SEAL team. Morrison, Ghost copies. I see your position. This is going to be close. Ghost, we don't have a choice. If you don't help us, we're all dead. Sarah took a deep breath and pushed her A-10 into a steep dive. Below, the Taliban fighters were closing in for the kill. The SEALs were running out of ammunition, running out of time, running out of hope. What happened next would defy every rule of physics, every principle of aerial combat, and every limit of human possibility. In 15 minutes, Sarah Martinez would do the impossible. She would become Ghost 9. Episode 3. Next time on Ghost 9 Files. The mission that made military history. 15 minutes of flying that experts still can't explain. How one pilot saved 12 Navy SEALs and earned a Medal of Honor that would never be acknowledged. Ghost 9 versus Taliban. 15 minutes that defied physics. The most incredible aerial combat story ever told. This is Tracelight Stories, where real life meets karma. Like this video if Ghost's journey inspired you. Subscribe for the next episode. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if everyone said you'd never make it? The legend continues next week.